I would like to call a meeting of the Lightboard Advisory Committee to order at 7:34 on March 15th, 2022. Our potentially final Lightboard Advisory Committee meeting that we're having without the Lightboard. We might have one more joint if we have quorum for next week. But this is end of an era. So yeah. Comments or thoughts on that, or should we just get straight to it?
End of an era.
End of an era.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
go ahead, Craig.
yeah, I'll just jump in. Just want to thank the committee over the last several years. You know, certainly with me, but over the last 10+ years, you've brought a lot of value to the light department. You know, bouncing ideas, working with us, looking deeper into some of the issues that we were dealing with, and helping us disseminate that information in the general public. So for me, to the committee, I just wanted to thank you for your time helping us.
Thank you. It's been fun. So okay, well, let's do the minutes. Aiden, can you help us go through? I only noted one on the agenda, but we do have two. Is that, oh, we have executive, sorry. That's right. Yep. Are we approving the executive in executive session?
You can approve them in regular session if there's no changes to them.
Okay, great. Then Aiden, why don't you walk us through?
Mute button when I'm sharing screen. So this is the regular session. So I don't know if I didn't receive any changes ahead of the meeting from anyone. So if anyone has any now.
Yeah, we had a typo here on page 4.
That's internal policy. Yeah. Oh,
It's right in there. Yeah, you got it. Yep.
and those 2 items there, that typo, and then just changing the format on internal policy here.
I mean, there's another typo on that same page. I think it's high school solar installation. There's another just word issue. Like word caught involved. Hayden, do you see that?
Sorry, where is it?
In the high school solar, same page, page 4.
Yep.
The high school solar installation, I have another typo underlined in red, just involved with an M. That's probably not needed.
Oh, that was, I think that was the one that Bob just caught.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought, okay.
Yeah, so just that one that involved, and then the internal policy, I think.
Yep. I don't have any changes. Should we vote?
We need a motion, right?
Yeah. I'll move to approve the minutes of February 15th, 2022. Do I hear a second? Second from Dave. I'll go around. Travis, Frank, I. Steve.
Steve Kliansky, aye.
Dave.
Dave Evers, aye.
Bob.
Bob Forrester, aye.
John.
John Abe, aye.
I think that's everyone, actually. 5 of us today. Okay. Executive session.
If you want to put those on the screen, yeah, we have to go into executive session.
Oh, so, okay. So then, does anyone have any edits on the executive session minutes of February 15th, 2022. I do not. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay,
Second,
great. Travis Frank, aye. Bob,
Bob Forrester, aye.
Steve,
Steve Fleonski, aye.
John,
John Abe, aye.
and Dave.
Dave Evers, aye.
Okay. Our next agenda item is to move into executive session to discuss confidential and competitively sensitive and other proprietary information, in this case, energy storage. We will be returning to discuss public rates and continue with our agenda. And I think this might be like a 20-30 minute thing, Craig, just to give
Yeah,
people
I
a
would
sense of
expect-
things.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would expect to take about 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to enter executive session?
Motion to enter executive session.
And a second from,
Second,
a little slow today. Okay, Travis Frank, aye. Bob,
Bob Forrester, aye.
Steve,
Steve Fleonski, aye.
Dave,
Dave Evers, aye.
and John.
John Abe, aye.
Great, so we'll be returning, everyone. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I would entertain a motion to leave executive session.
So moved.
Here a second. Second from Dave. Travis Frank, aye. Steve,
Steve Fleonski, aye.
Bob. I saw his lips. Michael,
Michael McCray, aye.
Dave,
Dave Evers, aye.
John,
John Abe, aye.
and Bob. One more time.
Bob Forrester, aye.
Okay. Thank you. Craig, do you want to take us through the next agenda item? You're muted. Craig, you're muted.
Sorry about that. That's the bouncing from meeting to meeting, how it happens, I guess. So as everyone knows, we're presently engaged with a firm to do a cost of service study, and the second half of that would be a rate design discussion, process. And so it was brought to our attention by the committee that this would be a good time to really look at our rates and decide, are they good with the way they are, or is there changes that can be made? Some of our rates have been around for quite a while. Are they antiquated? Do they need to be updated? That type of thing. A good example would be the regular rate A, which is our residential rate. At 1600 megawatts, it ratchets up to a higher rate. That, in theory, it makes perfect sense when you're trying to conserve power, lower your capacity and transmission costs, things of that nature. The question is that really the right way to approach it going forward, or should we look at changing that? We are advocating for electrification, trying to green our fuel supplies with electricity. And so by encouraging someone to put a heat pump in their home and then charging them more possibly for that power, is that the right way to really look at that rate? So we're looking at that. That's really just a simple example, one example. Obviously, we're going to look at all of our rates, but that's really the flavor of what I wanted to talk about today, is just to get the committee's point of view, if you will. Any information you want to supply, or any thoughts you had on rate and rate design as a committee. Obviously, the rates are voted on and approved and really owned by the Lightboard. So it'll be at the board level discussion for sure, but wanted to get the committee involved in any any feelings they had on that.
Questions or comments?
Well, I'll just say I had a good discussion with Craig and Becca and Mayhew CV, who's doing the cost of service study about some of these topics. And I do think it's important. It may not be the sexiest thing in the world, but to look at rates and how and the rate structure and rate design. For instance, I mean, the cost of service study, we probably know we have to raise rates in the future, looking at some of the budget numbers from last time around. But what we should be doing is looking at particular rates and how, if they're recovering their cost of service or not, and trying to equalize the cost of service, I guess it's called rates of return, so that if maybe we need to increase a certain commercial rate more than the residential rate. And then you have to decide, do you move all the way toward equalized rates of return, or do you, because of rate impacts, do you move only partially the way there? So I think there's, a lot of hairs on this, and I think it's good to dig into the details. And I think it could be also not just sort of this academic exercise in a way, but I think it could play into our strategic plan for how we want to see energy efficiency and other things in the future. Craig mentioned the inclining black ratchet for the summer residential use over 1600 kWh. And, I've been asking for 9 years, why is it at 1600 kWh? Why is it 3 cents per ratchet increase? So, I mean, I think, all those, there's got to be answers. We should have a rationale for everything we're doing for rates. And then finally, the question of rate design. How much do you recover through fixed charges, either demand charges or customer charges, and how much you want to use volumetric charges to encourage energy efficiency is important. And then sort of the last subset of that is for the low income rate, those rates, that rate is subsidized. How much should it be subsidized? And what kind of a design should it be? Do we want to encourage low-income customers to also conserve energy? So I think there's some definite steps there. And we should be looking at all of those as we go forward to figure out what best serves us and best serves our strategic plan.
If I could just jump in with a couple specific things. I agree with Steve overall, but one is, so a while back, Michael was asking a lot about, how much, say some of the heat pump pays in distribution costs. I think we covered the energy and the capacity and everything kind of in the TOU, but the particular side, the distribution side, is something we couldn't answer. I think we always put it off to the next, this process. So just want to make sure, to be fair to him, that we get an answer right to this process. This is the perfect time to do it. The second thing would be the schools. One's just a careful thing. I know with COVID, they're running tons of ventilation, so it may not be a typical load. You might, I don't know if you want to go back to 219 or something. And the other thing is, with the new all-electric high school, I would really love to see what you come up with a commercial impact or rate for that, because right now, not only do they have demand charges, but they also pay energy on a per kW basis. And according to their modeling, they're a morning peaker, really far from our afternoon peak, where we hit our distribution and capacity and transmission and stuff like that. So it just, I haven't run any numbers on it particularly, but it just seems unfair somehow. So I'd be very interested in how that rate is kind of looked at and modernized and the cost.
Sure. Yeah, well, it's a good point. Obviously, once we get into a conversation with Mayhew and PLM, the firm that we're working with, we can explore a lot of that. I do have a sense that, as Steve mentioned at the outset, it appears right now our rates are not covering our costs, and that looks to be the way going forward. So there is a sense of a little bit of urgency associated with our rates. So I think that there might be a stutter step on some of this, where we have to implement a new rate and then continue to work on modifying or creating, say a rate such as this high school situation where you want to, make sure we're treating that situation in a fair capacity. But yeah, it's all good information. Thank you on that.
I think I probably am going to echo Dave and Steve pretty closely here, but one, just I agree with everything they both said, and I think threading that needle between, there's electric use that just fundamentally drives a cost, and then by virtue of when and how things are charged, sort of the cost causation. We don't want to encourage excess. We don't want to encourage waste. But at the same time, the heat pump or the EV is a wonderful example that, should you be paying anything for distribution or transmission charges when you charge between midnight and 6 a.m.? You're essentially, the analogy goes very well to, you're driving on the freeway and there's two other cars on, a 4-lane freeway. And, you're not using essentially what drives the cost for that freeway. You're not quite using it for free. But that kind of variation in cost and causation and how it encourages sort of smart usage, a summer adder that charges people on sort of a fixed or non-time of use rate in the summer months. I think there's some logic to that. It's, don't do that in the winter, because at least today there is no capacity charge in the winter. And maybe that's sort of part of what you're covering to hit. Obviously, more granular time of use, targeted hours. I still would love to see some sort of more robust demand response. How do we get residential storage? I got a quote. It's well outside my budget to put storage in my house anytime soon. So, that said, I think there's a huge savings I could be providing to the town, but I can't get there from my own pocketbook. But I think sort of as a community, if we sort of not crowdsource, but fund, incentivize that with very specific targeted agreement for how then that battery provides service to the community, we could access a shared savings. So it's again, just threading that needle between making sure costs are as low as we can feasibly, reasonably, sort of revenue neutral maintain, while also sort of nudging people politely in directions that make sense for lower costs. But overall, I think that very well, Craig, and so does the rest of your team. So it's just been recognizing what the next agenda item is. I'll say it's been a pleasure working with you on these things, and hopefully looking forward to continuing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll again, without jumping ahead, but wish the candidates on the call good luck in the election in a couple of weeks.
I'm liking what everyone else said, so I'll just try to do the additive comment. Craig, you mentioned something about potentially thinking about, I think you said a high school rate or something like that, as you thought more about that. I don't think it's possible per se, but I would actually be interested in knowing whether or not we could actually cut one of our rates, reduce the number of different rates. And I don't think we've got municipal, and we have large and small, and we have, that kind of I don't think there's that many things, but I just feel we've got a street lighting rate, and I'm wondering whether or not there's even some simplification that's possible, as opposed to like adding a school rate. So that would be my inclination. I'm not sure it's possible, but I'm just saying like that would be kind of like one of the things I would like, oh, is that, spend 5 minutes thinking about that during this cost of service study. And thought I had one other comment, but I'm blanking on it, so maybe that's it.
No, I'm 100% with all the comments that have been said. Like I said, the only concern, if you call it a concern even at this point, but is the timing of it all. That we,
Yeah.
making some real change to rate structures or rates in general can take some time.
And that's actually
we
my
have-
that was my other question. When would you what do you think the potential timing is for at least the stutter step, as you put it?
Well, I think the conversation will begin as early as next month. So it's conceivable that one of the first agenda items on the new board's agenda could be a rate discussion or a presentation from our vendor, PLM. Obviously, organizing a new board and all that, may not fit that meeting, but it's going to be pretty quick thereafter.
And you think the cost of service study is going to be, you're going to have it farther enough along to have that discussion?
I believe the cost of service study will be ready for that time frame. The rate discussion that is on the back end of the cost of service. So the cost of service, they're going to go through and figure out what everyone's cost technically should be for service, right? And that's really around a lot of the fixed charges, what it costs Belmont Light to provide service to every customer. Then there's the rate piece of that comes on, and that's where the real discussion will begin as far as all the different statements that were made today and all the things that we want to look at and how to, whether it's streamlining it or incentivizing other behaviors, things of that nature. And that can take some time. So, but we'll be in really good shape in April to begin this conversation.
Other questions or comments? Oh, sorry.
Oh, no, I apologize. I will say that, again, there is a bit of a sense of urgency associated with this. We are finding this past season, the winter months, that our costs were higher than we were expecting them to be. We knew going in that they were going to be higher. We did several iterations of our budget for this year, and the cost so far for the first couple of months of the year were higher than even we came up with from a budget standpoint. So, we have mechanisms in place such as the PCA to capture that. We're going to look really close at that and see if we have to implement anything sooner rather than later to collect that money. But it's all part of that rate discussion,
Yeah, I will just say, as having the experience of presenting cost of service studies for an investor-owned utility, this all had to be done at the same time. You had to do the rate structure and rate design and all. There was no second part to it. We have the latitude to, as you said, Craig, stutter step it, and we just need to keep our eye on the ball, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Should we move on to the next agenda item? Okay. I think then what this kind of comes in two parts. I heard a little feedback. Is it me? Okay. This comes in two parts, which is the first thing we have to do is.
Aiden, you keep lighting up. Can you mute yourself maybe?
Is to basically vote to say, hey, we recommend dissolving us, and that will be handled at the Lightboard meeting on Monday. And then we also need to have a way to basically, we normally have this final minutes. We always approve our minutes, but if we dissolve ourselves, we can't approve the final minutes of that last meeting. So then we just, the way Ellen, the town clerk, has said is that we bless someone. It can be me, the chair, it could be someone else, to kind of handle the final minutes and submit them to the town clerk, basically take responsibility of that and pre-approve those minutes, basically. So those are the two votes. And the other thing I was just curious about is, are we going to have quorum on Monday night's light board meeting? So maybe a show of hands of anyone who is going to make Monday meeting. I'll be there, but you don't have to. I'm just curious about quorum size.
I'm just checking.
It's 5:30 on Monday, so it looks like that's 4, so that's a quorum. Even if Steve, and John, there we go.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it looks like we'll all be there. So we will have one more meeting of LBAC, but today we could vote to say that thank you very much and we're done, and then also handle the minutes question.
Well, we wouldn't vote to say we're done today. We would vote to say we're done at the end of the month, right? Or
Yes,
April
excuse me.
4th or something.
That would be fine. We could take that as a motion. And so, any other discussion? Or Aiden, you were coming off of mute potentially. Did I miss something?
I was going to say a vote to recommend the light board to dissolve. Steve just said it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
That's better.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to dissolve the Light Board Advisory Committee upon the ending of the current light board transition on. So we go on the election of April 5th.
No,
2020.
isn't
No,
what
sorry.
Aiden just said? The motion is to recommend to the light board that LBAC be dissolved.
Sorry, then feel free to make a motion. Steve, I might have misspoke.
I move that we recommend to the light board that LBAC be dissolved.
Upon April 5th, upon the election day.
Well, we could have
you
a
said
date,
end of month,
or
so.
we could have a date, or we could just leave it up to them to provide that date when they vote to dissolve.
That's fine. We'll just do the motion that you stated, which is to dissolve the Light Board Advisory Committee. Okay, sorry. The recommendation to the Light Board that they dissolve the Light Board Advisory Committee. I will second Steve's motion. Travis Frank, aye. Steve?
Aye. Steve Flansky, aye.
Bob?
Bob Forrester, aye.
Michael?
Michael McCray, aye.
John? I didn't hear him, but he did come off of mute. and Dave?
Dave Beavers, aye.
Yeah, it looked like an aye from John. So I think that's everyone. Yep. And then the final thing is to basically to vote a motion to vote and approve someone to handle the final minutes, which will be again next Monday's minutes. Unless Aiden, are we going to have minutes from today to approve on Monday?
We can try, but I think Sue might be tied up.
Okay, so then we'll make this motion the final outstanding minutes potentially today and Monday's minutes.
Travis, sorry to interrupt. Did I miss approval of the 2 minutes that were provided and circulated with this meeting,
You did,
including the executive session meeting? Because
correct.
okay. There's one small observation that I would maybe change in that, but I don't know that it's substantial enough to undo anything that's already been done. And I was late, so no big deal.
So
If you want,
I move that Travis Frank be charged with taking care of the final minutes of the Light Board Advisory Committee and transmitting whatever needs to be done or communicating whatever needs to be done to the town clerk.
Second.
okay, Travis Frank, aye. Steve?
Steve Flansky, aye.
Bob?
Bob Forrester, aye.
Michael?
Michael McCray, aye.
John? Dun, 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 dun.
John Abe, aye.
Excellent. Dave?
Dave Evers, aye.
Okay.
Hey,
Well, I guess we'll see a lot of you, everyone. We'll see people Monday, but thank you.
yeah, it's funny. I want to say some kind of witty line from a movie or something, but it's not coming to mind right now. But as I said at the outset, I want to just again, thanks to the committee for all the assistance for the last couple of years with me, but certainly over the last 10 plus years for the light department. And again, I wish all the candidates well in the election for Lightboard office.
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you, Craig.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Travis Frank, aye. Steve?
Steve Klansky, aye.
Bob?
Bob Forrester, aye.
Michael?
Michael McCrae, aye.
Dave?
Dave Evers, aye.
And John?
John Abe, aye.
Have a great Tuesday, everyone. See you
Thank you,
next
everyone.
Monday.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks very
Thanks,
much.
everyone.